What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Political Spectrum Podcast. We're a podcast that collects people with different political beliefs on the political spectrum, gathers them together to talk recent news, politics, etc. It's been a while since we did a normal podcast episode, but yeah, I guess we'll just jump right into it with introduction. So I'm Paul, the Libertarian.
And I am Frank, the Republican.
And I'm Charlie the Trumpist, and the future.
And the future Republican.
The once and future Republican.
The once. I don't know about the once.
That's a King Arthur reference, you dullard.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
Please, did you get that, Frank?
yes, I did. I was in Duns Scotus, remember, Paul?
I could have been. Anyway. All right, we'll jump right into it. So let's start off with probably the most pressing news, which you guys might be thinking, what's the most, whatever news like that? Well, it's obviously the Chicago news, which is was it 4 teenagers, I believe?
Yeah, 4 scumbags.
Yeah, we have 4 teenagers who kidnap a mentally disabled white dude, basically tie him up for, I believe it was at least a day, it might have been 2 days, and they basically torture him live on Facebook Live. And they chant things like, we hate white people, we hate Trump, etc. And it's just like it. And there's like some speculation right now afterward. They're like they have some people on the left, they're kind of like asking, was this racist? No, maybe, we'll see, I don't know. Kind of like dancing around it. So what do you guys think about that? And maybe the whole act altogether?
I mean, I think it's emblematic of the sort of poisonous rhetoric that the left's been pumping out. They always say, like, oh, Trump is spewing poisonous rhetoric, and yet Trump supporters haven't actually hurt anyone that we're aware of. Meanwhile, to be all fairness to Black Lives Matter, their Chicago chapter has announced this, and the Black Lives Matter kidnapping hashtag, it is a little bit misleading because we don't have any evidence that Black Lives Matter were behind this. But honestly, how long can you tell people white people are the devil, they're killing black people on the streets every day, they are horrible and evil, and you have to stop them? How long can you march around saying pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, until someone decides, hey, maybe we should actually act on this?
Right, or at least have like the mainstream media actually report on these people, because they never report on anything that these particular groups do that can be construed as racist towards white people, except for extreme things like this where they almost have to. It always has to be done by alternative media.
Well, they do not believe you can be racist to white people. Like they actually believe that racism is power plus privilege. So therefore, because they're basically they're racial cultural Marxists, right?
Yeah,
so it's all about class struggle.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh well, all white people are a group, and since they have all the power, they cannot be discriminated against.
Yeah, and for those that don't get this concept, that don't know what Charlie's talking about, I think he just explained it quite well. But there's a lot of people on the left that hold this particular view that you have to be oppressed, whatever that means, in order, an oppressed group of people, race-wise, in order to experience racism, which doesn't really make any sense when you think about it, because racism is solely based on hating a particular group of people based on their skin tone, has nothing to do with any privilege or anything like along those lines. And privilege is not based on skin color. I don't know how anyone even nowadays even thinks that. Frank, what do you think?
Democratic Party thinks that. This is all that it's clearly BS. I think I was watching Don Lemon, and he said that this wasn't racist. This was just bad parenting or a bunch of stupid kids. And I was like, a little bit more than that. I think what many groups is, this is just a form of reverse racism, which is just acts of discrimination.
It's not reverse racism. It's just racism.
Yeah, well, I'm with Paul on this one.
But but from the perspective of other groups, there's no such thing as Charlie said. There's no. They don't believe in racism against white people. They believe in like reverse, like it's a different form. It's like you can't because they're in the majority. So it's justifiable because white people are majority of the country and are claimed to have most power. So that's why they call it, I don't know if they call it reverse racism.
Some people call it reverse racism. I guess it's
yeah.
people on the left that kind of acknowledge, yeah, these acts are wrong, but we have to label it something different so not to confuse.
So it's reverse racism. Yeah, that's the term they use. I'm not defending it.
Usually I see like SJWs and stuff like saying, "Oh, it's not, reverse racism isn't a thing."
Yeah, exactly. It's like the moderates on the left.
Yeah.
Well, that's what CNN uses it and everything else. This is reverse racism against white people, and I just don't see the point in that because I don't believe America is predominantly a racist country. People can prove to me that it is.
I don't think anyone would. Well, I don't think anyone should think that. In fact,
a lot of people do think that, though.
Like, I know they shouldn't, though.
Which is interesting. There was a report in 2016. White officers, police officers will actually are more quicker to the draw with white suspects than black suspects now. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah,
because they're terrified.
Yeah.
Like they are.
That's actually
like God forbid they like in the line of duty they shoot a suspect who happens to be black. Like these people will destroy their lives.
Yeah, pretty much.
Basically. Yeah, and I've heard this scenario play out before, but the situation was reversed.
Yes.
And it was for and I've heard almost everyone I've ever watched put the scenario, but it was 4 white teenagers with the black mentally handicapped. Was it a teenager or a child? I don't know.
Teenager.
They're all 18.
Okay, so yeah, and they did the same thing. They were saying, fuck black people, fuck Obama. Someone's going to edit that of me in about 30 years and ruin my life, but
Yes.
But
don't worry, Paul, you'll be in Trump's America. You'll be fine.
But yeah, if someone did that and the situation was reversed, there would be no question. In fact, I would have no question. I think you guys would be in the same boat. Like, I think the difference is there are people on the left that just don't understand that similar acts, just because of the race, doesn't make it not racist. Like, do you remember that lady on CNN who was like, we have to wait for the facts. We have to wait for the facts. What facts? It was on live Facebook.
We all saw it.
They said fuck white people. I mean, I just
no, it's not racially motivated.
But like from this culture,
we don't know if it's political.
There's a growing mindset in the left that white people can't be discriminated against, which is interesting. So, I mean, even the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department at first didn't say it was racially motivated, which caused an uproar throughout everywhere. So
it's absolutely ridiculous.
Like this goes beyond this case. This goes beyond into the left's mindset that white people cannot be discriminated against because they are the majority of the country. Therefore, they have the advantage, and it's only
acts like this?
They won't stop there. That's the thing. Like even if the kind of triumphalist leftist predictions, right? They always kind of like to say this kind of like a big kind of smug smile, It's like, oh well, in 30 years, white people will be a minority. Like, okay, I don't really care, but the point, they're not going to stop like when we're not the majority anymore. They're going to say, oh well, you still have institutional powers. You still can't be
racial history.
Oh yeah,
even in the 30 years
America,
because that's based on immigration tracks, which can always change. But that's not another argument for the day. But I mean, that's eventually they're blaming everything in racial history are reparations for slavery, which happened 100 years ago.
And a lot of it's based on individual choices they make in their own lives, and because they do have certain advantages, economic advantages that the government grants them. Because they are a minority, and they squander their opportunities early on in life, and a lot of people do this. Of course, it's not just people of different races. There's a lot of white people that do it too, that stay low income because of choices they make in their lives, and they blame it on a group of people that that they're told to. Basically, they're like, oh well, all my woes are because of this.
Oh yeah, well they have the
It's
charlatans
not-
like Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson.
Yeah, they can't look in the mirror and say maybe it could be themselves, and which a lot of times it is.
To be fair, since Dan's not here, I guess I'm the socialist of the group. I am apparently I this is kind of an unpopular opinion on the right, but I do think that the black community in America is still owed something, but not. Well, he's right. I mean, like it's not the way that they're asking for it, though. Like Milo's point, it's not like like better schools would be a great job. Police reform could be more in order, more community policing.
But I feel like that's more logic based than anything. It's like it's not that they need something; it's that the communities need something. That's what I would say.
It's more of the culture.
It's almost like you can't separate the two now, is it?
Oh boy.
When you have 90% of black families being a single parent household,
I think it's like
more than that.
And that was all the Great Society. Like before the Great Society came in, like the black family was fairly stable.
Blacks had higher marriage rates than whites during the 50s.
Yeah, and then the Great Society came in and just destabilized all that.
Right.
I remember when Barack Obama talked about this in 2008 when he was a candidate. He talked. I think he was at, I don't know where he was, but he was talking to a black audience, and he was talking about the single parent, how it's harming the black community. And I remember Jesse Jackson. He didn't realize he was live, or the mic was projecting his words, and he said he wanted to, and I quote, cut Obama's balls off for talking down to the black people. And I was like, So when you have guys like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton who make money off of race baiting,
and you have people like Ben Shapiro who have cited this statistic, but one of the best ways to get your child going is to have them one, have two parents in the household, and two, finish high school, get a high school diploma. And that's one way to most people who do that are never in poverty. Never. Statistically, very unlikely that those people would ever be in poverty. Rather,
tradition.
When it's
tradition.
Okay. When it's the other way around, obviously. Right.
Yeah.
But how many acts, I want to say, how many acts have to occur similar to this before people on the left realize, and a lot of people have, I will give them credit. Like Charlie said, there have been a lot of groups that have denounced these things and have claimed them to be racist. But how many acts have to occur before even the extreme left see it like that? That's what I want to know.
It can be discouraging because it's a similar thing with radical Islam, where you just have to ask yourself, how many more will it take? Right. And it's the same thing with like illegal immigrant crime. Like, how much more will it take? I don't know if the hardcore of the left will ever wake up, but I think unless the Democratic Party starts to reform and move in more of, like, say, a 90s Clintonian direction, you're going to see the moderates of the party bolt. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just because they won't be at home there anymore. They'll have no place.
That's true. That's very true. And I guess with that, we'll jump on to our next topic. Let's go into the Fort Lauderdale airport shooting. So I don't have too much information on this personally, and we won't dwell too much on this because, but basically there was some guy, he kind of checked a gun in at an airport, and then he basically whipped it out and shot a lot of people. I believe it was reported, I was watching the conference yesterday, that 5 were dead, many more were, at least maybe about 10 more were injured and 30 more injured from non-related injuries, because everyone was like running around and hectic, obviously, because there was guys shooting people. So I don't blame them. But yeah, it was just an interesting case. Do you guys want to get into more details where maybe I don't know everything about maybe who the suspect is?
Well, there are a lot of things that we just don't know at this point. Like all the information is still really vague. So right now the narrative is that he flew into Fort Lauderdale in Florida, my home state, on a Air Canada flight, and he had checked a pistol in his bag, and he went to the baggage claim area, claimed it, went to the bathroom, loaded it, came back out shooting. And but the thing is, right now the Air Canada has said, we have no record of this person. We have no record of them checking a gun. We have no record of them flying with us.
That's
Um,
very bizarre.
yeah, and then there's also like the idea like there's like some info that he might be a radical Islamist, but he also has a history of mental disturbance.
Right.
Um,
This is what I've heard about it. And I did watch their briefing last night, and I did watch some other people do some things on it. So his name was Esteban Santiago. I don't care if we say his name or not. I don't think he did this for fame or anything. I think he was just mentally disturbed. But yeah, he apparently, and this is what a few podcasts I've watched said. They said that he had he heard voices in his head telling him that he was part of ISIS
yes, yeah,
and to shoot people. It's a very bizarre case. He's clearly he clearly has mental issues, or at the very least lying about it. But I'm sure it's mental issues. Frank, what do you think about it?
He was in the military. He served a 10-month deployment to Iraq. And what people say is he was generally an all right guy. When he came back, he was more furious. And according to family, he had mental problems whenever he received help.
and he was discharged too.
Yeah, and according to the FBI, they don't see any connection as of now to any terrorist organization. So I think it's safe to say he had maybe a form of PTSD or mental problems that finally triggered him.
I don't think ISIS claimed responsibility, right?
No.
This is one thing where I'm prepared not to blame ISIS. Because apparently he was discharged due to like unsatisfactory performance. And there is evidence of him like downloading jihadi music and that kind of thing. But honestly, I think with a person in this kind of mental state, they're going to be drawn just to an ideology like this.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't ISIS, he would have found something.
That's true.
Yeah. So I think people. Yeah, it's like something that seemed kind of powerful and terrifying, right? He probably would have gravitated toward that.
Right. I mean, in the past, maybe. I mean, he could have also gravitated to good groups as well. It's just it was just unfortunate the direction that he was drawn. And we don't know what the motivation was at this point to be drawn to that sort of thing. But it could have just been something as simple like listening to that kind of music early on, and then it just progressing over time, and then hearing voices telling him to shoot people. I mean, it's bizarre. We'll get more of the details as they come in. I get the feeling a lot of it will be, a lot of it will just be, just mentally disturbed, and we won't know too much about the background. I don't feel like we're going to learn much more than we already know.
There's actually just been another attack in Jerusalem.
Oh dear. Well, I guess
4 killed, 10 injured, and a truck ramming terror attack.
So, yeah, 8 minutes ago. Wow, or 2 hours ago. Jesus, 4 dead after a lorry driver rammed soldiers. So, I mean, and that seems to have actually. I think we should also bring up the Israeli Palestine UN decision. Because that's something that I think I would actually be curious to know both of your positions on that. Actually, I feel like I would probably know Charlie's, but I don't know what Frank's position on that would be. Although I could probably wager a guess, but I'm sure you guys heard about it. The UN passed something. I believe it was trying to get. So a lot of people said it was recognizing Palestine. I didn't read the exact notes, but I believe it was getting the Israeli people out of. Settlements that were predominantly considered to be Palestinian lands, at least in the past. Basically occupied territory. I don't know if it's occupied. I mean, they take it legitimately.
The legal situation is very odd.
Right, and it seemed like I watched John Kerry's speech for like the whole hour. It seems like it's a very dicey situation altogether. But what are your thoughts on that? And we'll jump. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Go ahead, Frank.
I'm reading about it now. I'm reading actually Alan Dershowitz talking about the UN decision, but I mean, it's not really surprising because President Obama and Secretary Kerry have been saying, like, in hundreds of conversations and comments that because the Israelis have been pushing into the West Bank, which they own after I forgot what war they took land. It was making a two-state solution unachievable over time, but there have been multiple diplomatic efforts on the part of Israel to work out a two-state solution with Palestine, but it has never worked because Palestine is operated by Hamas, which is a terrorist organization that hates Jews. So they never really were able to work anything. So Israel decided to say, fuck it, we're just going to go to the West Bank. It's our land, and we're a sovereign nation. So I think the UN thing was a little ridiculous when you have nations like China and North Korea with human rights abuses and Saudi Arabia, but you go after Israel. So
exactly, it's really a bizarre scenario because the UN basically, well, the UN has done this multiple times before, but I believe they were at one point a few years ago, I believe over 100 countries basically voted to, I believe, recognize Palestine as a state, at least officially in the UN, or as a nation. I forgot which one it was. It was either a nation or a state. More likely a nation now that I think about it. But yeah, and the United States voted no, and it was actually President Obama who was leader at the time, so that was good on him. And Israel obviously voted no, and I think maybe 4 other countries did. Obviously, mostly our allies, and Israel's allies. So this is just bringing back just basically old wounds, basically, because this has been going on for decades. Like this whole conflict between Palestine and Israel, and it's been tried so many times to be fixed. But like Frank said, the people of a lot of the Palestinian groups that are fighting this land, they are funded by terrorists, and it's not and a lot of people just don't know that. Like when John Kerry was speaking, he didn't mention any of that at all. Charlie, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the resolution was basically it was a non-binding resolution, but basically condemning Israel's settlements in the West Bank, I think it was. Again, Israel's been doing this for a long time. I'm a very pro-Israel guy. I think the Israeli state has shown incredible restraint, honestly, because they are routinely getting rockets and mortars and shells and bombs launched at them, and they rarely retaliate in force. And whenever they do, the entire world condemns them.
Exactly.
It's actually, and I mean, the UN is extremely hostile to Israel. Like if memory serves, they have declared Zionism to be a form of racism. So like the idea of the Jewish people having a homeland is racist. So I mean, it's actually, I mean, Frank and we had a debate recently, which I encourage everybody to watch.
Link down below.
Link down below, where we debated about the UN, and I do favor at least significant reform, if not withdrawal, of the U.S. from the UN.
I do agree with that.
Because it just, I mean, for me, it's on principle grounds, because it doesn't serve our interests to be in it, right? But more importantly, it's like how can we call ourselves Israel's ally while funding and backing this organization that repeatedly condemns Israel's existence?
We'll see what the God Emperor does.
Well, I mean, Ivanka is a Jewish convert, so maybe he'll be pretty pro-Israel, which this current guy has not been.
Right, his son-in-law is definitely Jewish, and it's going to be interesting to see what Donald Trump does with the situation. He has stated on multiple accounts that he's for Israel. So I do believe when the next administration takes over, something will be done, whether it's the defunding of it, which I heard might be a possibility. We'll see how that works out with Congress, though.
I doubt that.
Yeah, it might be a little complicated.
I highly doubt that.
He might try an executive order, because there have been a lot of expanding of executive orders. I believe that would be shot down, but it would be a temporary fix, but it would be shot down. Although Congress would have to pass a resolution saying that he can't do it, then it would go to the Supreme Court. But obviously the precedent is there that he can't do that, because I believe the Senate is the one that passes the thing for funds. So yeah, this whole situation is just, it's dicey. That's all I can say. It's always been dicey, and it will remain to be dicey. And this decision by the UN does not help anyone, except
Well, I believe we should.
except
I
terrorists.
believe we should stay in the UN, because if we don't, we'll be isolated and then have a reputation that America wants nothing to do with the international world, or think that we're not willing to work together with the international world. But it's okay to disagree on certain things the UN does. I still think.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, and I'll bring up one point. The UK, for instance, leaving the EU. A lot of people had that same argument. They would say, "Oh, well, the UK is going to be isolated out of the EU, and they won't even bother communicating with them." But when they left, we saw that the result was actually quite different. And they had many countries walking up to the UK being like, "Hey, let's do a trade deal. Let's make sure everything's good." And they were doing their own deals with them. So I feel like it would be similar with the UN. And the EU is like has more bulk to it than the UN.
More clout.
Yeah.
Well, the difference with UK and USA is that we're a superpower and they're not. We need, because to regularly interact with the rest of the world, this allows us to do that in the formulations and, better our reputation in matters and work together and try to. If we're not trying to work together, the rest of the world's working on things without us jointly, we're kind of isolated on global affairs in a way.
I agree with you that we need to cooperate with other nations.
Doesn't have to be through the UN though.
There are more constructive ways to do that. It's like with the EU. You can have a free trade zone, you can have a defensive alliance without the EU. It's the same with the UN. You can have international conferences, you can have alliances and treaties, you can have humanitarian efforts without the UN.
But the rest of the world wants the UN. That's the problem.
Well, we'll see how many of them want it after the superpower leaves.
I highly doubt anyone will leave. Especially if under Donald Trump, they'll all stay. I can guarantee that.
That's okay. We really don't need them.
That's not okay. We need the rest of the world. America is not the only.
No, we don't need the UN. Like if we leave the UN, we're not leaving the Earth. Like America isn't breaking off and flying toward the moon. We're just withdrawing from this international body that repeatedly condemns our allies and takes our money while doing it.
Basically.
That's going to create resolutions without us. So we're going to lose our seat in the Security Council, which will harm us in dealing with rogue states, etc. So I mean, there's a lot of problems with this.
Well, maybe it's time to stop policing the world.
Well, that's another argument.
Maybe Russia would leave with us.
It's a great argument. It's a wonderful argument.
Russia would leave with us.
I say we only leave. I say we only leave if Russia leaves with us.
We could form a grand alliance with Russia. I'd love that.
Uh-oh, this is going into another conversation. Where's Dan?
Maintain world order that way.
Where's Dan? He's at 20 minutes.
Dan's shoveling snow right now. He says he's going to be a little longer than he thought.
All right. I mean, yeah, I think, look, I understand the arguments for the UN. I think Frank and I always have a fundamentally different view on this, because I don't see any benefit to our country. There's benefits to our influence, yes, because being in the UN does increase our ability to police the world. But I question whether that's in the national interest.
I agree with that.
Well, it allows us to influence other nations to take part in policing the world or working in other joint actions, such as dealing with Iran, dealing with North Korea, even dealing with different rogue states or dictator or shitty countries. So it allows us to work together jointly and maybe create a system where we don't have to be the only one going in.
But we don't have to go in. We don't have to go in.
We don't have to go, but say we have a thing like with Iran, it allows us to put pressure jointly together, or North Korea. Without us leaving there, it would be a big imbalance with the Security Council, because France and England look towards us as a leadership. Then Russia would be there with China.
Well, regarding North Korea, even the Chinese are actually kind of getting on board with the anti-DPRK bandwagon.
Yeah.
Like not too long ago, they started having drills again. Like the Chinese started having drills in the event of a North Korean attack.
Did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
However, there has been speculation, and this is just speculation, that with the United States isolating China, China might be more motivated to kind of
Work with North Korea.
Not work with, but like cater their relationship to them. Be like,
Good luck.
hey, it's okay. Don't be stupid. It's okay. Like, I mean, they already kind of do that, but they'd be more willing to exert their influence, I guess.
Which is okay. I mean, I think that would show the world where China lies. You know, I mean, they're buddies with North Korea.
Which they are. They always have been.
Yeah,
They just been showing tough love recently because North Korea is dragging them to things they don't want to be involved in.
Yeah. I mean, you know, well, the Chinese are a lot more pragmatic. Like, they're sort of like a quasi-fascist state where it's like the DPRK. They're like, oh, we're this sort of national Bolshevik neo-Stalinist state with a god emperor, a real god emperor.
A real god emperor. Yeah, a real god.
Like an actual god emperor.
It's like an undead order. The grandfather is actually head of the military, and he's been dead for 70 years. You can actually look this up.
He leads from beyond the grave.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. I don't know, government, but anyway.
That's bizarre. Oh boy. Okay, so wow, I don't know how we got into Asian politics. Actually,
I blame Charlie.
You're welcome.
I think I brought up the China thing, though. Oh, no, you brought up the China thing, and then I brought up something else. Right, yeah, you brought up the China
thing. Frank brought up North Korea, so I brought up the China thing, and then we got into China.
Yeah, okay.
I love dumplings. What?
I love dumplings, too.
All right.
I had dumplings.
Where do we go from here, from this cuckery?
We go to Julian Assange, of course.
Oh, boy.
I don't think you know what cuckery means, Frank.
I just use it for random things now.
That's fair.
But that's decadent.
It is decadent, yes.
I hope your moms know what cuck is. Well, all right, we'll go into it later.
It's literally in our last video. They know the definition if they watch it.
It is indeed. So Assange.
Yes, so Assange. So first off, we have to admit wholeheartedly that Russia hacked the election and changed everyone's vote to Donald Trump, and it was 100% Donald Trump votes this past November, and everyone was so surprised.
Well, they actually hacked people's minds and changed their opinions.
Duh.
Duh. I mean, you guys have seen those Putin names. I mean, they're very.
I mean, there are masked men. There are actually masked men in Florida right now, and like Florida's gonna have like a plebiscite where we're gonna vote to join Russia, like with 98%.
97.6.
I'm not hearing a negative. America gets rid of Florida, so I'm just saying.
You're going to want that red state in the future, man. Just saying.
Oh, yeah, true. Very true, actually.
Especially when Texas is blue.
It's never going to happen. But
it could.
It has.
But yeah, okay, so Assange.
But the rumor of Russia changing the votes says I don't know what the evidence is that that's been denounced.
Yeah, it has been denounced, and here's the thing that the mainstream media has been doing. They've kind of been they've been misreporting basically, and not that they're lying to the people. They're just they're just leaving information out. The way
they're lying to the people.
The way they word things is that they make it seem like Russia's hack had everything to do with the election results, when it really didn't have anything to do with anything, because they didn't have an effect on anything. Like here are the two possibilities right now. Okay, the first possibility, which I don't believe, and which is that Russia hacked the United States and the DNC and gave the information to Assange. I do not believe this was the case, but even if that's the case, that wasn't like a direct assault on the election entirely. And the second scenario is that Russia attempted to do like some hackings for like some information, just like any other country does, and they didn't really get anywhere with it. And Assange released the DNC stuff on his own from a separate source, which is basically what I believe to be the case. So, Charlie, I know you read the details about was it Clapper's stuff?
It was the Department of Homeland Security's report.
Go ahead.
And only like the first 3 pages were like the actual lead up to it. The rest was like, oh, how do we prevent this in the future? Most of it was like a security bulletin.
It was all fluff.
Yeah, but here's something that any corporation would have. But the thing is, in this report, they never actually provide evidence that the Russians did it. They just say, "Oh, it was the Russians." And if you look at at their explanation of what happened, apart from their beginning thing, they don't even really mention the Russians. Like they talk about like these two groups, right? They're called APT 28 and APT 29, which are supposedly these hacking groups that have been around. And they're just claiming that they're Russian intelligence, but they provide no evidence for that. It's all conjecture. It's nothing new in this report. It wasn't even hacking. It was phishing, right? Basically, they asked Podesta for his credentials, and he gave them to them. Like, that's not hacking. That's idiocy. So I mean, yeah, it's just this. What they're trying to do is they're trying to delegitimize Trump before he takes office. They're trying to pawn off this narrative of like the election was stolen by the Russians through their malicious hacking of people's opinions, and it just goes through. I think Frank just dropped out of the call.
He'll be back.
Okay, it just goes on with what I've been saying for a long time, and Danny gets very very mad at me about this. But the media are willfully lying to us. They are very partisan. They don't like Trump, and they want to make sure his presidency fails.
Yeah, and what's so interesting about this whole case is that and it's exactly as Charlie said, they don't present us with any evidence at all that Russia was involved in any election manipulation that had any negligible effect. And I'm sure Danny would come in here with some statistics being like, oh, well, X, Y, and Z. Be like, oh, well, this thing was shown to maybe possibly be of Russian origin. But it's like, it's like what Assange said, like with some of the data. He's like, just the way that it's presented, it's like it would be way too obvious for them to do it like that. Like, why would you have the source material be in Russian? That's
a Russian IP address.
I mean, they could have used a VPN.
That's how you know it's not the Russians. Like, the Russians are not stupid.
Yeah, I know. Frank, what do you think about this whole thing?
I don't think they changed votes. I don't think they turned this election to Donald Trump's win. I forgot who said it, but the Russians did not make Hillary not campaign in key battleground states. But this is a problem. I don't know if it's hacking or phishing, but according to Donald Trump, they tried hacking the RNC in an interview, like one of his, not an interview, like one of his statements. So, I mean, there needs to be some kind of retaliation or something to be done, apparently. My problem with the intel community is that they say that there has been a hacking or something going on, but they can't. They don't tell how, because I guess for national security issues or reasoning. But I will trust the intel community, but something needs to be done. I would hope so. But yeah, that's how I feel.
I do suspect that they did try to do something, but I don't think it was successful.
Yeah, something should be done regardless of the fact.
Oh, 100%.
This is just how international relations work, though. Like, we're trying to hack them, they're trying to hack us, and it's basically like we hacked the Germans, right? We hacked Angela Merkel's cell phone.
Yeah, we did.
So even if the Russians did this, one, we don't know that they did, but two, all they did was give people the truth. Like, all they did was show what a horrible person Hillary Clinton is and how rigged the media was in favor of her. So are we going to be very angry at Vladimir Putin for getting on his MacBook Pro and hacking the DNC? And
no, I'm going to be happy with Julian Assange because it was only Assange.
But he did, according to our president-elect, he tried hacking the RNC. The difference with Merkel is we weren't interfering with an election. They tried it with ours, so something has to be done. That can't be ignored.
We still wait. Who's they though?
The Russians.
We don't know it was the Russians.
According to the intel community and according to Donald Trump.
But they provided no evidence.
According to Donald Trump,
someone.
According to Julian Assange, it was not a state party.
But how can we trust? I don't trust Julian. I mean, I trust
Julian Assange. Julian Assange has never released any false information in his life.
I
Whereas
don't think he's infallible.
the CIA has released false information. They do it all the time. It's their job.
Trust the CIA.
It's called spin.
I'd rather trust the CIA and other intelligence groups over Julian Assange, maybe because I'm an American, but...
Well, that's why I'm a libertarian and you're a conservative.
Yeah, but...
I don't trust the state.
Donald Trump did say the Russians tried hacking the RNC, so I mean, I'm going with the president-elect and our intel community. Something needs to be done.
Like, what would you suggest be done?
Sanctions. Stronger sanctions.
Oh, here we go again. Okay.
Yeah, they work.
Let's antagonize the Russians more.
What are the Russians going to do to us?
They already reacted to our previous sanctions by going into the Middle East, where we kept them out for a long time.
So keep stronger sanctions. They can't.
So then they're going to go somewhere. Like they're going to keep more assertive.
Germany, Charlie, that's ridiculous. That's not. They have a GDP of $2 trillion.
Straw man much? When did I say they're going to invade Germany?
Well, I mean, you're making like they're going to be more aggressive. They're not. They're limited in what they can do. They're very limited.
They're going to become more strident. They're going to become more aggressive. As well they should.
And more sanctions will happen, and then they're going to be limited, and then their economy crashes, and then everything goes down the tubes. There's nothing.
We tried this with Mussolini. It didn't work.
All that will do is
apples and oranges.
All that will do is
historical evidence.
All that will do, Frank, is create an anti-American sentiment in Russia, and even more so that already exists.
Or it may actually strengthen the anti-Putin sentiment within Russia.
Why do you hate the Russians so much?
Putin's so good at spin. It's not going to do.
I remember a lot of protests in the last election. I don't think so.
His approval rate's in the mid-80s now.
I would question that, but when Russia has no China, by putting sanctions on it, it would just cripple them from. It would limit them what they were doing, strengthen our cybersecurity, and yeah.
Sanctioning them would increase their cybersecurity. I think they'd be more likely.
No, increase ours, and then sanctions limit them, and as a punishment.
I think they'd be more likely to hack us.
Not if we yeah. And then we increase more sanctions in the forms as a deterrence.
This sounds like a recipe for disaster, Frank.
How is it a recipe for disaster? What can Russia do?
You accuse me of being too bellicose, but you want to push for more aggressive relations with Russia?
Yeah, what's going to happen? They're going to go nuclear warfare? No. It's ridiculous.
When did I say they would do that?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that what could they do? Don't take it personal. I still love you.
I love you too, but we've seen what they can do. They invaded Crimea. They destabilized the Ukraine. They've gone into Syria. Like they've put missiles in was it Kaliningrad?
How does this affect us? They haven't did anything to us. Our influence, yes.
But Frank, they're hurting our influence, the most important thing in the world.
But it shows to our allies we will not stand down when Russian transgressions. Well, under Obama we have. That's predominantly his fault.
So wouldn't this problem be solved much easier by simply establishing friendly relations?
We have different interests in the Russians. Multiple different interests.
Only if we keep on being the police.
So long as we ally our interest with Russia, you're saying. So you want to change our interest on Syria.
What is our interest in Syria exactly?
To keep Assad out. They want Assad and we want Assad out. I'm not saying that's my interest. But that's the United States' interest.
How is that the United States' interest to keep Assad out?
But I'm just saying it is.
How is it so? I mean, like, what benefit?
I'm not Barack Obama. I'm not.
It's their professed interest.
Yes, it's the professed interest.
They have not stated a reason.
That's not the American interest. That's Obama's interest.
We don't know what Donald Trump's interest, what he wants to do, but it's so far over the last, 16 years, it's been the U.S. interest to get Assad out. We'll see what happens with Donald Trump.
I mean, he tweeted out, I think, was it yesterday or today, that we're going to have a friendship with Russia.
That's what he said.
Yeah, President Bush and Obama tried, so we'll see how that goes.
That's also true. That's also true. We'll see how that works. All right. Do we have any other topics on hand? I think that one went on for long enough.
A while.
Yeah, we had. You know what? I'm really proud of us today.
For winging it, like just to our viewers, we had no idea what we were going to discuss until
we had no idea what we were talking about. 5 minutes before, I was like, "Yeah, I didn't look at anything." Frank's like, "I didn't look at anything." Charlie was like, "Oh, there's that Chicago thing." And I was like, "Yeah, all right, let's do it." Yeah, I think we were going for like about 40 minutes. I don't know if
we're a man short, so we can probably go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah,
honestly.
that's true. I do want to see.
Wait for Dan to join the last minute. I'm just waiting for that.
I don't know.
I'm just
I don't know.
like, guys, I
don't know.
finished. I got this report from Nate Silver.
Oh no, Putin hacked 538.
Oh boy! All right, so yeah, for those who are curious, Danny, he is up, but he's doing some chores right now at home, shoveling snow, which is noble. It's a noble dude. I like,
Good, honest work.
Good, honest work. So, yeah, he said he would be on, but it said it was worse than he thought, so he's still doing that. So I guess we won't get a chance to see him this week, but we'll see him next week, hopefully. So if you guys enjoyed the video, please like, comment, and subscribe down below. I do think this was one of our better videos. We'll see if the view count represents that. It probably won't, but I don't give a fuck.
Rome was not built in a day. Our empire is begun.
We have to talk more about Putin. I'm telling you. We really got to put Putin in our headlines somehow.
The Russians love us.
I got a check in the mail from Putin
Not
coming
me
in.
anymore.
It's great, but his currency doesn't mean shit here. So
I'm a shill for rubles.
All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Until next week, guys. Peace.
Adios.
До свидания.